My name is Osei-Frimpong, and would you believe my computer just up and quit on me? It just that was an earnest revolt. All of a sudden, I saw blue on my screen. Now, if you want me to have better equipment than I currently have, go over to www.funkyacademics.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. And I'll keep giving you a quality of wisdom, which I think will make your life better and let you squander it and be surprised when your kid ends up less than maybe they could be. So once again, modern society wants to tell you to go out and make a lot of money, and then you pay that money to other institutions to raise your kid for you. And then you go out and you make a lot of money, then you pay that money to other institutions to raise your kid for you. And that's just, I'm not convinced that's how you win. And I see especially black people in these United States with the institutions not exactly being calibrated for our thriving, supported like that. So I think you should make as much money as you need to then be able to spend time with your kids and work with them on what they need to learn. But you need the time and the patience to actually work with your kids. A lot of people don't believe that this is true. They think that kids raise themselves as long as you invest in them money and you send them to the nicest schools with the most expensive stuff. And I'm saying that no, actually, that's not how it works. You need enough money, to make sure everything goes smoothly, but there's no substitute for the working with them on a given task or project. And that work with them on something excellent. And you can do it in a cauldron because you can make them do things that they don't want in a way that a coach that's worried about the kid liking them is not going to make them do things. So you can be harder on your kid than any coach is. And I think you should be harder on your kid than any coach and teacher, but you can be hard on them if you're working with them. You can't just yell at them and then leave and go off and make a bunch of money. No, you need to work with them. Work with them in common cause on some project, on their excellence. And a lot of parents tell themselves some sort of story that they don't have to do this. And then a surprise when their kid ends up Hillary from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I call Uncle Phil a bad parent, and it's not obvious that he's a bad parent because he seems to always kind of be there for his kids. The problem is he never worked with Hillary on anything, so she's awful. He sent her to institutions, these awful institutions that made her a creature of the market, a creature of commercial society, a creature of Bel-Air. So she was more of a creature of Bel-Air than she was a creature of the Banks household. And then he had to deal with her running afoul of the institutions. And that's where we think of good parenting as coming in. We think good parents are there and present with their kids when their kids run afoul of the institutions. But that's not what good parenting is. Good parenting is actually putting in content prior to the institution and in concert with the institutions. That's not just making a bunch of money and then sending them to the fanciest institutions in the world and assuming that those fancy institutions will do your parenting for you, because they won't, especially if you're black, but they won't even if you're white. And then you'll end up with a kid who has, one, nothing in common with you because you didn't actually work on any concerted activities. Two, you won't know exactly what the kid is doing, so you won't be able to actually give a quality of advice when they need advice because you weren't there in a granular way working with them. And once again, you can say that this is a matter of television and the medium doesn't ever depict good families. But no, Opie was teaching, Andy was teaching Opie how to be the future sheriff, and that was kind of depicted as such. And like the Cartwright boys were learning how to run the ranch when Ben Cartwright died. And then that was depicted as such. There was a working with. And we underestimate the importance of working with under these other models of kind of bourgeois model of a family where like your job is to make a lot of money and then pay professionals to teach your kids. So everyone specializes, and we think that that's how it works. But there is no specialist market, especially one that's on the market, a market actor who's going to substitute for the kind of pressure and love and commitment that parents can put forth in working with their kids. Right? But you need to actually put forth that work. You can't just yell at them from while you're cooking dinner. Yell from across the room, do your homework. No, that's not work. You have to be doing it with them. You need to actually do the work. And people don't like me talking like this because I'm telling them that parenting's a lot harder than they want it to be. But I'm telling you that parenting is a lot harder than both the market will tell you it is, and a lot more intensive than you want it to be if you don't want your kid to be a screw up. And you can say, by what right can you tell this? Look, my kids last week, they won the state championships. My 7-year-old, the little man in the middle of this picture, is not only the state champion at 7 years old in 8 and under cross country, he set the state record. And he's 7, which means he comes back next year, to put it so far that maybe his grandkids will look at it and think of it as that state record is still there. My middle one, also a state champion. Didn't set the record. It's kind of my fault because I don't think I talked to her the right way about the race, but she is a state champion. She won. She beat all those other girls. And then my oldest was 3rd in the state, in cross country, 12 and under. And they get that because I train with them. I don't just say go out and run, or I don't just like put them on the cross country team. No, we are out as a family running. After this, we're going to go on a run, me and the kids. Sometimes my wife comes, sometimes she doesn't. And then after that, I'm going to take them to the pool. I taught them how to swim. I'm going to take them to, we're going to do laps because my kids do laps. Now, my oldest is also now on a swim team, but that's a lot easier because I taught her how to swim. Well, right? So you can't just expect institutions to do your parenting for you. And same with their schoolworks. I could show you their iReady scores are all 99th percentile. This is because I work with them. I don't just send them to school. It doesn't matter how fancy the school is. If you're serious about them learning, if you want to convey to them that this is serious work, you have to sit down and do it with them. And that way you'll know everything about their development. If you don't do that, you're just not serious about creating excellent kids, which is fine, but then you're going to have to deal with your wasteful kids, and don't say anybody didn't warn you. And this isn't the model that you might have grown up with, and this isn't the model you see depicted in television, because television wants you to create creatures of the market. They don't want you to actually reproduce people who are skeptical of the market. They want you to they want you to trust the market to raise your kid. And I'm saying no, you need to raise your kid, but you need to also know what you're doing. You need to work with them, not just lecture them. You need to be working with them in the granular way for them to become excellent. Setting the goals and then praising them when they achieve them, and then kind of disciplining them when they don't, but you're setting reasonable goals and teaching them how to set reasonable goals themselves. And you need to do it with them, and not just, we'll do what they like. No, because since you're going to be doing it with them, you need to do what you like and what they like and put it together. And then you need to commit and show commitment into doing it in a way that's not particularly, it's going to be countercultural, right? So I hope this has been clear. Let me check the chat real quick to see if anyone has anything to say. Yeah, you just have to have reasonable goals. Actually, being hard on your kid also, it takes responsibility on the parent. A lot of parents just put this on institutions because they don't want to take the responsibility of deciding what to be hard on them about and what being hard on them looks like. But you need to take that responsibility as a parent. Now, I'll help you, once a week to talk about that. But you need to actually take the responsibility to decide what your kid is going to be excellent on, and then the granular effort to show them how to do it and then work with them in doing it. And that means you need to study on how to be pretty excellent yourself. I don't with the little one, remember, he's setting state records at 7. I'm 47. So we need to think about, we need to think about how much longer I'm going to be faster than him. And because, by the time he's in 5th grade and I'm 50, or he's in 4th grade. Yeah, he's in 5th grade and I'm 50. He's gonna be faster than I am. So I need to kind of think about that. All right. So someone asks for a schedule of my activity. My kids are up at 5:45. We run a mile. 1 mile, 5:45. they run it pretty quick. So it's not that big of a deal. And they know, so like getting ready, it's just 5:45, we're up, run a mile, run it fast. It's still dark outside. That's fine. I'm in Georgia. The weather's fine. We're up, we run a mile. All right. And then the kids have music. They do music before school. An hour practice. I'm kind of running up and downstairs trying to make sure it all gets done. Breakfast in the morning is always the same. It's oatmeal and eggs. That's just kind of how breakfast in the morning is. So from 6:15, usually my oldest hops in the shower. My youngest does a music lesson, and the two youngers do music during that hour, and then it kind of switches. I keep my oldest. She doesn't get to her regular middle school. She's in 6th grade right now. She doesn't get there until 10 o'clock because we realized we can just rack up the tardies and nobody like calls her like truant as long as you just rack up the tardies. And so we rack up the tardies and I work with her one-on-one from when the two younger ones go to elementary school at 7:40 to I work with just her from there to 10. And you can do a lot of work one-on-one with a kid in 2.5, 3 hours. I get her to her junior high school at 10. All of this is local because we don't have to spend money sending them to fancy private schools because I just do a lot of this myself, right? So all the schools are really close. We get her to her junior high school at 10. She does her junior high school day. At 1 o'clock on Monday and Wednesday, I get my youngest from school early and I work with him alone, one-on-one from, 1:10 by the time he gets home to about 3:30. And we do math, we do all of this stuff. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I do that with my middle child. I get her from school early, 1 o'clock, and then 3 o'clock. And since these are all local public schools and they know our kids, they have a relationship, they pretty much let me do whatever I want. Right? We had actually parent-teacher conferences this morning, regular parent-teacher conference. And the local junior high school asked me to be the girls soccer coach. The athletic director wants me to be the girls soccer coach for next season in the soccer. And, that actually works out pretty perfectly. So I think I'm going to be doing that. I previously coached her rec team, but now actually coaching in the school, I think is going to be good for, might be good for a lot of people. Yeah, and then after school is a little bit different. When we can, I want to hit the pool after school. They've already run a mile. So we hit the pool, do a few laps, and kind of depending on what season it is, things kind of have to move. And then we come home, do another round of music, throw down some dinner, and then we do abdomen work, like sit-ups and leg lifts. Core is very important if you want to raise winners, and that's for every sport. We do abdomen work right before bedtime, and we're in bed. I want to have teeth being brushed at 7:30. Teeth being brushed at 7:30. We start our abdomen work at about 7:15, 7:10. Teeth being brushed at 7:30, and then we kind of slow down and. If I need to read with the kids even more. But I've already done that in the afternoon and during the enrichment time. The lights out just before 8. And then we're up again at I want lights out at 7:45. Doesn't always work out that way. But lights out just before 8. And then they're up again at 5:45 the next morning for the sprint mile. And, this is all they know of life. So it's not really that oppressive, especially now that they see that they're better at things than other kids. Like they just understand that this is what we do in this household. And that's fine. So that's pretty much my schedule for them. As you can imagine, that only leaves like 4 or 5. That only leaves a few hours in the middle of the day between getting my kid to school at 10 and picking one of the others at 1 to work on my dissertation, which is why it's taken me few longer than it should to work on my dissertation. But look, man, I've worked in the university system. Once I like my life is going to be teaching kind of ungrateful undergraduates for the rest of my life who kind of partially listen to me and are going to try to write all of their papers on AI, or I can spend this time with my kids when they're young and then kind of just postpone my eventual real professorial career, which I think is just fine because I just don't get this time back with them. And if you screw up with them when they're young, like that's like turning around the Titanic as they get older. I've just seen too many, both academics screw up, like fumble their kids while they're writing their next book, and there's too many professionals in general screw up their kids that like, let it be known that I screwed up my career, maybe fumbled the bag as it were, but my kids are excellent. Oh yeah, so for cross country with the kids, for 8 and under, it's 2K, 1.2 miles, which isn't too much. And for the middle schoolers, it's 3K, 1.8 miles. It's not the full 5K until they get to high school. And that's like fine, right? So my 7-year-old, since we run a mile a day, he can do 2K like with strategy. Like he can do 2K fine. The record now, he said, is 8:04 on a cross-country course. If it was on a track, it would be faster. This is 2K on a cross-country course. 2K on a cross-country course at 8:04, which, is moving he's 7 and he'll turn 8 next June. And I think that's fine. And I think probably he'll get it in 7 minutes something next season. And that's just kind of what it is, right? I don't want to put a lot of miles on them. That's why we don't go do a whole lot of runs. We pretty much do 1 mile a day. And then on the weekends, sometimes I'll slow it down and we'll do a 5K, but it'll be at like kind of a nice tempo. It won't really be at a race pace, but the mile a day, it's 1 mile fast. All right. Thank you for your time. This is kind of what I do. By the way, if you appreciate what I'm doing and you think I should do it more with better equipment, and want to get my kids watches. This is one reason why I don't think my middle kid broke the state record. She won the state championship, but she didn't break the state record. I think it's because I told her to pace off of someone for the first half of the race, and then take off for the second half of the race. But the girl I told her to pace off of didn't really run out like she normally runs out. So if she would have had a watch that told her how fast she was going with like GPS, I think she would have actually broken the state record. And so I think that I fumbled. That. I'm not going to fumble that next year though. I'm not dependent on anybody else to set the pace. My kid's going to have a little bit of technology that tells her if she's going fast enough, and I'm not going to get fooled twice on that. I'm not betting on any other little girl to set the pace for the race. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. That's a different model of parenthood than going out and earning a bunch of money and coming back and giving your kid all the fanciest stuff and the fanciest things and expecting those institutions to teach your kids. It's a different model. I think it's a better model, especially for Black people who really can't trust institutions. But that's a model of parenthood you do not see depicted in Black media, because I'm not sure Black media wants you to be good parents. So they want you to send your kids out to the institutions, have them run afoul of the institutions, have the kids come back, and then have you yell at them, but you don't have time to work with them because you're too busy running out, earning money to pay for the institutions. Like that's not my model of parenthood. Thank you for your time, and I will talk to you next week. And if you appreciate what I'm doing, and I think you should, go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. Peace.